skills that we need to develop ready for our exams. In our last video, we looked at some fairly simple access, search and retrieve questions. I can't imagine you had enormous difficulty. Perhaps there were one or two questions that needed a second glance, but most of those questions probably feel very simple and you probably thought I was patronizing you by setting those questions. I'm not patronizing you, I'm just making sure that you've got these simple skills needed to gather those simple marks at the start of your exam paper so that you've got more time later on to focus on the more difficult questions. What we need to look at today then is not access, search and retrieve this time, but words in context questions. So a little bit of practice just to make sure that we know everything we need to know about answering questions requiring you to do a little bit of definition. What we are learning today then is how to answer these low tariff GCSE style questions. And what I'm looking for is for all of you to be able to engage with this simple text. I'm asking for most of you to be able to answer these low tariff words in context questions with accuracy and to be able to track the text methodically and independently to make sure that you absolutely have the right answer and that you haven't made a silly mistake. Like I've said before, incredibly bright students often get these simple questions wrong because they overthink them. All I want to make sure is that you've got exactly the right information needed in order to secure these lower marks. When it comes to answering words in context questions, there are a few things that you must remember. Firstly, in Unit 2 and Unit 3, you could be asked one of these questions. You could be asked to explain what a word or a phrase means. Now, it's always taken from one of the texts that they give you, one of those 5 texts at the start of the exam paper. Please don't think that they're going to test you randomly for your ability to define a word. In a words in context question, it's always your ability to figure out what a word means based on the context of that sentence. To answer this question, you have to find the quotation in the text first. I cannot tell you just how important it is for you to find the word in the text, to highlight it, to read the line before and read the line after, even if you think you know what the word means before you've read the text. I would advise you to never define the word without checking in the text, because words can have different meanings depending on context. So when it comes to those ambiguous words, you need to make sure you are defining the right version of that word. And I'll show you an example in just a second. Now, when you define these words, the golden rule is that you must use your own words. You cannot use the word that you are defining in your definition. If I was to explain what a camera is, I can't use the word camera in my definition. I can't say, oh, it's one of those camera things. Oh, it's something that you use to use as a camera. You can't use the word camera. You have to use words that other people know. If I'm explaining to someone what a camera is and they don't know what a camera is, there's no point in me using the word. So we must not use that chosen word in our definition. We must make it clear what the word means. At the end of our explanation, the other person, the examiner, should be able to see quite clearly that you know what that word means. This is the example I'd like to show you, and this is an example that's come from a real-life application. In a past lesson, I have asked this question to a group of students. What does the word advanced mean? You are all sitting at home at the moment, and you all know what the word advanced means. So this student that I asked popped his hand up straight away before reading the text, and he said, something up to date and modern. Now that's entirely right, isn't it? The word advanced can mean something up to date and modern. For example, if I were to show you some advanced research, well, it would be up to date research, wouldn't it? If I showed you an advanced computer, that would mean it's an incredibly up to date and modern computer. However, what this student didn't realise is that the piece of writing said the soldiers advanced slowly. Now all of a sudden the word advanced has changed entirely. That definition that student gave me, which sounded right, that student clearly knows what the word advanced means, he didn't realise that words have different meanings. These soldiers are not up to date and modern. The correct answer here might be something like to move towards something. If you advance towards something, you're moving. It's a verb. So what we need to make sure that we are doing is that we're not jumping to conclusions when it comes to a words in context question. We're actually looking at the text and we are giving our answer based on the specific usage of that word. I know it sounds incredibly simple, but it is very important not to make that mistake, because that one grade could be the difference between a B and an A grade, or an A and an A star grade. And I think it would be such a shame for you to miss out on a wonderful grade simply because we didn't check in the text. The piece of writing I'm going to give you today is not Harry Potter. This one is going to be from The Hobbit. This is the piece of writing that you are going to read. It's based on chapter 5 of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is one of my favourite books when I was a child, by the way. I remember when I was about year 4 of primary school, I absolutely loved this book. I took it to school so pleased with myself that this is the book I was reading. I knew my sister had read it fairly recently. I absolutely loved that book. If you haven't read it, please read it. It is a children's book. Please don't think it's going to be the most advanced book you've ever read in your life. It is really, really wonderful, and you would enjoy it, I'm sure. I'm going to start you off just by answering these 5 questions. And again, the only reason why I'm giving you these 5 questions is so that you can have a go at practicing your words in context questions. Now, I've made them as phrases because obviously I want to make it a little bit more difficult for you. Lots of the words used in The Hobbit you'll already know, so I've given you phrases. And all you need to know is show me what this phrase means. So for example, this first one, when Bilbo opened his eyes, he wondered if he had. And your question is, what does this phrase mean? Obviously, you're not just telling me what it literally means, you're telling me what it really means. For example, if you say something like, this shows that Bilbo's eyes were open. That's just you reiterating what the statement said. You would need to write something like, so when Bilbo opened his eyes, he wondered if he had. You might say something like, the place was so dark that Bilbo questioned whether or not his eyes were open. Okay, you've got to show me that you understand what that sentence really means, not just absolute simple basic. The second question is your typical words in context question. What does the word groped mean? Now at this point you're probably thinking, oh, hang on a minute, the word groped has quite a few different meanings and I feel a little bit uncomfortable defining them. Make sure you're looking in the text for you to be able to answer that question. The next one is a phrase question. What does the phrase his head was swimming mean? Again, some students who perhaps don't consult the text say, he was in water and he was trying to move quickly. However, you will be able to find the correct definition of that by looking at the text. So these 5 are all words in context questions just for you to practice those skills, and I can have a look at them. To give you a little bit more, I've given you an extra 10 questions, and these are a combination of 2 types of questions. The first one is a words in context questions. Lots of those are words in context, and there are also some why questions in there. So you'll need to check the text and then explain why something has happened. For example, number 6, why does Bilbo think that his lack of matches is a good thing? You don't have to come up with your idea, you have to consult the text, find that part, find the part when he's using matches, read before the line, maybe after the line, and then you'll be able to figure out what the answer is. So a combination at the end, just to give you a little bit more to do, we'll do a little bit of words in context and then a little bit of a slightly more difficult question. Again, these are not the most difficult questions you are going to come across in your exam. All I'm making sure is that you have an opportunity to practice all of the skills, even the simple skills, ready for the more difficult questions later on. Thank you very much. Have an absolutely delightful day, and I'll speak to you all next time.